Hello and welcome to Dingoes My Podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And this week we are discussing the episode Damage. This episode originally aired January 28th, 2004, attracting approximately 4.34 million viewers. Alright, so let us start off with the number one film in America this week, Dave. Any guesses?
Film-wise, the end of 2004.
Beginning of 2004.
Or, no, beginning there, yes. But then, uh, which was it?
I would be a little surprised if you're familiar with this movie.
Yeah, nothing's immediately jumping to mind.
It's a movie called You Got Served.
In some cases, you'd be surprised that I would somewhat remember it, but yeah, it'd also be a case of it's probably one that I maybe would have avoided.
Yeah, it's like a dancing like drama film. I
And
don't.
thus the title makes sense, but is also ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw this because it's just not something I would enjoy. Anyway, moving on to the number one song in America this week, Dave. Any guesses?
Had to venture a guess. I believe from last week it was still Hey Ya, so I wouldn't be surprised if it stuck around.
It is still Hey Ya by Outkast. Alrighty, and let us quickly move into video games, where we have actually some stuff to talk about this week. Alrighty. So on January 28th, if you're a PS2 gamer, you could pick up this little game called Mafia: The City of Lost Heaven.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the Mafia games at all?
Well, know of the title and whatnot from there, but don't believe I've ever taken the chance to actually play through any of them.
I highly recommend the first one. I think the sequel's actually quite good too, but I think the third one is where they drop the ball. There's a remake that's out for like PS4, the definitive edition. Highly recommend picking it up if you ever get the urge. I also don't think it's terribly expensive anymore. I don't remember though. Let's quickly do a Googs. Definitive edition. What do we? Oh wait, how much is it on Steam? I hate when you have to like put in your birth date because it's like, oh no, this is an M-rated game and fuck you. So it is currently like $14 on Steam.
Hmm.
It is a very good game though. If anybody hasn't played it and you like kind of like mafia movies and stuff like that, definitely go out of your way and play it. It's really good. Also on January 28th, if you're a PC, PS2, or Xbox gamer, you could pick up a little game called Viet Cong First Alpha.
Somewhat ringing a bell, but I don't think that I've played that one either.
I would be a little surprised if you had, because you're not really like an FPS guy, are you?
Not too much, no.
Yeah. It's one of those like pre like COD 4 FPS games, except this one's in obviously Vietnam. But I feel like this probably it reviewed okay, but yeah, I don't remember this game at all. Moving along to January 29th. Now, normally we only cover American releases, but in this case, we're going to cover a Japanese release.
Okay.
Because if you were a GBA player at the time, you could pick up one of, well, I guess technically you could pick up both of them. Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green.
Ah, so around that time when the old games were finally re-released.
Yes, but didn't they make changes to this? Like, it wasn't just like a port with like updated graphics. It was they did changes, I thought.
There were some particular updates. Again, with the change in the particular market, they essentially wanted the third series of Pokemon to be a bit more of an actual restart. And when things were starting to way the other direction, there was a bit of, oh, there's a whole bunch of things that people still want from the old games, but those old technologies can't exactly come to the common day. So it was a case of reinitializing it, but also adding some additional stuff so that some other things could be accessed.
Yeah. I feel like I bought one of these and then didn't enjoy it because of the changes, but that might just be because I'm a grumpy old man.
Yeah, it's a good chance. I think I have your copy. You sold it to me.
That makes sense. Okay. And the final game we're going to get to talk about this week is a game I'm not familiar with at all, but on February 2nd, if you're a PS2 player, you can pick up a game called R-Type Final. It looks like a futuristic racing game. Oh, it's a shoot 'em up. Oh, the cover makes it look like it was a racing game.
Hmm.
Apparently, it's an entire series of R-Type games. I'm not familiar with
Okay.
these. R-Type. Oh, it was like a Japanese arcade game, it looks like.
Uh, yeah, not exactly familiar with it either.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure somebody enjoyed them. But
Hmm.
stay tuned for next week because there's some bangers next week as well. Oh my lord. Anyway, we should get started with this episode. So isn't it nice that we came back to an episode that was super happy and there was nothing sad that happened in it?
Well, I wouldn't say it's anything sad, but
It kind of
it's
is.
kind of a case of, oh man, there's kind of a case with this, with the ramifications of what happened in the last season coming into this season, and just the stuff that happens in general. Just, ugh.
I think there's definitely like something where you go like, oh, this is yeah. I think there's definitely some sadness to it, and also it is kind of lore heavy and expects you to know a fair bit of Buffy lore for this episode to kind of make sense.
Additionally, but also it results in the cringe, which, oh god, the cringe.
All right, so let's get into it. At Wolfram and Hart, Harmony tells Angel what she suspects is a case of demon possession. There was a mix-up with a patient named Dana's medication at a psychiatric hospital. And no longer sedated, she broke down her door, fought and killed one of the paramedics, and escaped. Angel and Spike arrive at the hospital, where Dr. Robinaugh tells them that Dana had been kidnapped and tortured for months when she was 10 by a man who killed her family. Recently, she gained incredible strength. As Spike leaves to deal with the girl, a nurse provides Angel with Dana's session tapes. She speaks in various languages, and he understands what she says in Romania. He then calls Wesley and informs him Dana is a slayer. A dun dun dun.
Very much indeed.
At Wolfram and Hart, Giles has sent his top guy to take care of Dana, which turns out to be Andrew, and I'm super happy because Andrew's here.
On the one hand, it's nice to see him and brings a nice sort of dynamic, but he also brings the cringe, which I'm not really sure I could tolerate, but oh boy, the cringe.
I actually really like this version of Andrew because he's still kind of goofy, but he's more competent now.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, you can tell he's like growing into being a watcher, which is kind of cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
He's emotional in his reunion with Spike, then updates the group on how Willow activated every potential Slayer in the Battle of the Hellmouth months earlier. Wesley wonders how the Slayers will be trained now that the Watchers Council is gone. So Andrew explains that Giles and some Sunnydale alums have resurrected the Council. Hopefully without all the fucked parts.
Yeah.
As Spike heads off to look for Dana, Angel follows Lauren's suggestion to visit Dana's childhood home with a psychic. Vernon flashes back to Dana's abduction and her family's murder. The smell of molasses and a basement is where her pain lives, he says. Meanwhile, Dana goes to the basement of a building where she was held captive, flashing back to her tormentor injecting her with various drugs. She looks up at his face and it's Spike.
Well, that's mildly concerning.
Yes, it absolutely is. Andrew catches up with Spike and updates him on the Scooby's activities. Xander is in Africa, Willow and Kennedy are in Brazil, Buffy and Dawn are in Rome, and everyone else is in England. Andrew guesses that Buffy doesn't know Spike is alive and wonders why he didn't tell her. When Spike follows the scent of blood into Dana's trap, Andrew tries unsuccessfully to shoot Dana with a tranquilizer gun. Spike chases Dana into the basement where she starts repeating what her torturer once said to her. Dana, channeling Nikki, recognizes Spike as William the Bloody. Before he can explain that she's dreaming of the other Slayer, she injects him with a sedative. At Wolfram and Hart, Fred realizes the smell of molasses indicates Dana was held in a distillery, and Angel sends a tactical team to search the abandoned distilleries. Excuse me. Back in the basement, Spike awakens to discover that Dana has cut off his hands. She tells Spike that he can't hurt her anymore, but when he insists that she's thinking of someone else, she finally remembers who her tormentor really was. Angel arrives, tells Dana that her torturer is dead. He knocks her out with a tranquilizer dart. Spike is taken to the hospital to have his hands reattached. Later, Andrew tells Angel that because Dana is a Slayer, she belongs in the care of the new council. Andrew says none of the Scoobies trust Angel now that he works for Wolfram and Hart, and that they aren't on the same side. Angel visits Spike in the hospital now with his hands reattached. Spike admits he's never thought much about what being evil means. He says Dana is like them. Someone turned her into a monster. Angel notes that she's an innocent victim, but they both agree that they were too once upon a time. So, that was the episode. What did you think of this one, Dave?
I think it turned out fairly good. Always interesting with tossing a little bit more from the Buffy series into Angel, with the ramifications of what happened there bleeding out and still having effects on the world.
Yeah, I think this. Now, I don't know for sure, but I almost wonder if the idea here wasn't to use this as kind of a backdoor pilot for. Because I know that they had intended to do like a Slayer School kind of series. So I almost wonder if this wasn't kind of to set that up.
No, I wouldn't be surprised. But again, then depending on getting rights and other sorts of things prepared for the show, a good sort of thing to get that step in, but whether or not it's actually going to go along with how it went down.
Yeah, I mean, the show never got made, but I was kind of like, well, they're setting Andrew up to kind of be like one of the leaders of the new Slayers Council, and kind of some other things are happening here. I'm like, I think this is intended to kind of like bring the audience into that and want them to see, and like kind of make them want to see more. I also love that we find out like kind of where all the Scoobies are at the time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's kind of nice. And like I said, this is kind of lore heavy because it does kind of require you to know what happened at the end of Buffy with, you know, Willow casting a spell that activates every potential Slayer in the world. And then would have, if you've read the books that came out recently, there were other things that happened as a result of that. Okay, mild spoilers for the book that came out a year and a half ago. Something like that. It's the first one in the new series. I think it's called One Girl in All the World. Is that the first one? I'm not sure. Let me check. Because there's a book that came out not too terribly long ago. Novels by writer. This will be easier. Where... I am not finding it. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's called One Girl in All the World. It might have been the other one, though. I don't remember. But we find out in that book that the book focuses on Willow's daughter. And get ready for some magic bullshit here, Dave. We find out that when Willow casts the spell to activate all Slayers, that somehow results in her getting pregnant.
Well, I guess that one comment that she made after the spell went off kind of makes sense.
What? Wait, what? What are you thinking of?
Well, I vividly remember from the scene when she did the spell and whatnot, she said that it was a bit of a rush. And the additional thought was kind of like, possibly drug use and other sorts of things from there, doing that strong of a spell, but it also could have leaned a bit into the case of, oh, you just got yourself pregnant, little busy.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess, but I was like, that's certainly a way to have a character get pregnant, I guess.
There's definitely worse ways.
I mean,
Far
sure.
worse ways.
Okay, so I do love how Andrew says vampire. He says vampire. It makes me
Well,
happy.
he's trying his best to be all fancy cool,
I know,
as Andrew does. He
and
just,
he always fails at it, but it's always funny to me.
it's just always the cringe. Like, I understand, sweetie, but still, you don't have to go that hard.
Oh, it's so good. Anyway, if there's nothing else, let us move on to some international titles for this one. So, there's a bunch of them that are just like damage or damages, which I'm just going to skip over because. So in Czech, it's called Aftermath.
Eh,
In Finnish, it's called The Vampire Slayer.
because there's a bunch of them now.
Yeah, like hundreds, if not thousands. In French, it's called Crazy. In German, it's called The Chosen One. In Brazilian Portuguese, it's called Suffering.
Mm,
In Russian, it's Trauma. And in
yeah.
Spain Spanish, it's Touched,
Ooh,
which is
ooh,
quite a dark.
just a teeny little bit.
This, yeah, I enjoyed this episode. Like, I enjoyed this a lot, but
Indeed, and it went into an interesting sort of case of at the end of the series, they run through a lot of different situations of girls who gain this power. Simple, younger girl having this sort of strength, but also the case of girl that most likely is getting abused and now having this power against the abuser. Then this episode kind of takes it to a very extreme level, and especially with the idea of it runs through all of the Slayer's past and adding on to that.
yeah, which is
Just
a really cool idea.
just kind of the case of, ooh, that kind of adds to the insanity of things, and ooh, there's a lot of stuff she's probably gonna have to go through, which at the one case at the end of the episode, it's probably best that she goes along with people who have the same strength as she does just to kind of keep her in check. But they better hope to have a decent psychologist or whatnot along with them because, ooh, that is a sack of stuff that they're going to have to go through.
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool because like she gets this layer strength, but she's already like in the midst of like a psychiatric break, so she's normally like when you get the dreams and everything, you can process them and you're like, oh, that's just a dream. But in her case, she can't differentiate the dreams from reality, so she thinks like that shit's all happening to her, and it's really a cool idea. And I wish we got to see Dana more because I'm like, I like this character. I want to see more of her.
It's true. And at the very least, with what they showed within the episode, it at least put heart into it. I suppose it would be the question of how far it would be taken if they showed a bit more of her, and especially with the amount of time within an episode to kind of go through it. But yeah, on whole, it would be interesting to explore that type of a character.
I just think it would be okay. Okay, maybe this is weird of me, but I think a spin-off with her and Faith teaming up would be great.
It would be interesting, especially with how Faith would want to process through all the stuff, especially with what she's been through.
Exactly. I think it would be a really interesting kind of thing. Anyway, if there's nothing else about this episode, next week. Oh, next week. So, Dave, next week we're going to be talking about a little episode called You're Welcome. Okay?
Hopefully, not relating to the popular thing nowadays that whenever that's said, you immediately think of.
I don't know what you're referencing.
The Disney movie that had it as a song that was sung by Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
It's a Disney movie, so I didn't see it. Okay. I don't hate Disney, I just don't care.
Yeah.
So, you know how Cordelia was in a coma like a season ago and never woke up?
Yeah.
Oh, she's gonna wake up.
Hooray! Though it's most likely going to have inflammation, so we'll have to see.
Yes. Um, a bunch of stuff's gonna happen with her and Angel and the team. Oh, and you remember that Lindsay feller who came back, right?
Yeah, he's kind of causing some shenanigans with things.
Well, he's gonna launch an attack against Angel and the team.
Oh, fantastic. Let's see what kind of shit's going to go down.
Oh, it's going to be good. So until next time, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.